Testosterone junkies, if you've tuned into this show for the first 4 years, you know all about the man I'm about to introduce. He's the man who needs no introduction. The middle of this beefy fat Oreo. It's Yeasty back in the house with Jeff and Jesse. Nice to have you, Yeasty.
Good to have you back, man.
No, I don't. That's the best introduction I've ever had on this show. I should disappear for a few weeks at a time more often, I guess.
Man, we like having you in the fold. Yeasty is a regular contributor to the website at testosteronesports.com. A great fantasy mind, and also plays along with us in the Tough League.
Oh, yeah, that's great. It's going wonderful so far, isn't it?
Yeah, we've got Yeasty and I are squaring off this weekend in a interesting matchup, a duel between the two of us. So we like to let the fantasy people at home, fantasy fans at home, kind of stay averse as to what's going on.
You guys call that the Marshmallow Bowl?
I don't know.
We're going to call it
the Jeff's
trying to get above 500 kind of bowl. That's what we're going to call it.
Alrighty then. So what we like to do here on the show is break down all of the matchups. I'm gonna kind of introduce one by one. Let you guys kind of give the people at home your fantasy insights, your thoughts. Let your knowledge flow forth, as it were, in this proliferation of information, as I like to say. So the people at home, grab a pen, press your nose up next to the TV screen. These two wizards of fantasy are about to give you the knowledge you need to dominate in your league. So the first matchup that we're going to break down here, Dallas at Green Bay. It's the Sunday nighter, two of the best offenses in the league. Guys, what a fantastic game. Jeff, you got to be psyched to watch the Sunday nighter.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. I'm not really excited to watch the Packers, but I do think they're going to get beat. So it should be a good time. I do say start all your Packers, except for take an eye and keep watching on what's going on with Ryan Grant, because he's surprisingly inefficient and really not showing up to the games right now. So it's kind of an interesting situation.
It's amazing how those running backs that hold out for an extended period of time have hamstring and leg injuries that linger. Brandon Jackson is outplaying him quite a bit so far. So keep an eye on that. If you have Ryan Grant, you definitely want to have Brandon Jackson.
Yeah, Brandon Jackson scored a touchdown last week, whereas Ryan Grant was largely ineffective in a lopsided victory. So definitely something to keep an eye on. But Yeasty, as far as Dallas goes, this team is off and roll in. They're averaging 7.4 yards on every offensive play. They convert 67% of their third down conversions. So when the offense is clicking like this, it really doesn't seem like too many teams are going to be able to stop them or even slow them. All of the key components are in fantasy play here, right?
Yeah, I mean, this is a great matchup to break down because we can look like studs and be like, start Romo, start Witten, start T.O., start Barber, hell, start Felix Jones if you want to.
Right.
You know, Patrick Creighton will be a good play against a gambling defense in Green Bay that does give up the long ball. So, yeah, I mean, start any Cowboy you want, basically, and you should get some decent production out of them.
I would say the over-under on this game is probably somewhere in the neighborhood of about 60 to 65 points. So the winning,
bet the over.
Yeah, so the winning squad is going to put up a lot of numbers. But Jeff, we've got to talk about Aaron Rodgers just a little bit and his development throughout the preseason. One of the biggest stories in the league was the Brett Favre saga. Will Favre come back? The fans are booing Rodgers in practice. Now, granted, it's just 2 games against 2 defenses that are beatable, but so far Rodgers looks like the real deal.
Well, he's got to have a big, tough matchup this weekend when the Dallas Cowboys secondary shows up. With Ken Hamlin at the safety, I do believe that Terrence Newman will probably be in the game here,
right,
and Adam Jones on the other side. Their defense really is stout against the pass, and I wouldn't be surprised to see Aaron Rodgers have a miscue here where he throws an interception, possibly 2. I think that's going to kind of tell the tale. Will be the turnovers here in this game, and so I'm a little bit cautious about Aaron Rodgers this weekend. Love Jennings. He got into the act last weekend, has yet to get into the end zone.
Right.
But with 165 yards, he's a must-play each week now.
Right, exactly. Denver at home against New Orleans in the next one we're going to break down here, guys. Denver, a big surprise to this point. Yeasty, the #1 offense in football, averaging 463 yards a game, blowing up all over the place. Jay Cutler, the top-rated quarterback. I mean, did you see this coming? It's amazing.
You did kind of, but you want to say, oh, yeah, I saw this coming. You knew Cutler was going to be better. Probably a top 10 quarterback. You didn't expect this kind of start from him especially. But just explosive on offense on all sides of the ball, whether it be Michael Pittman at the goal line, Andre Hall, or Selvin Young. You know, good luck trying to pick who the hell Shanahan's going to start there.
Right.
But throwing the ball, Tony Scheffler got into the act with 2 touchdowns last week. Denver's clicking on all cylinders. I look for him to continue to do so against the New Orleans defense that made Jason Campbell look good last week. So,
exactly.
Start Brandon Marshall, obviously. Start Eddie Royal, even though I'm not completely sold on him yet. He did have a drop-off last week until the late touchdown and two-point conversion. So make sure that you're not depending on Eddie Royal or trading for Eddie Royal with any big-name players just
A pretty good call, you see, because Eddie Royal got in the end zone the first 2 weeks, and as a rookie, you don't think that consistency will remain. So I would suspect him to not get in the end zone here this weekend, and especially with the reemergence of Marshall in the offense.
So on the New Orleans side of things, we all know about the injury to Marcus Colston, a devastating injury to a wide receiving core where he's the #1 guy by far and away. The other guys there, Devery Henderson, David Patton, Robert Meacham, not necessarily those bona fide fantasy studs, but Drew Brees still has big play popability, and he's got to be in your lineup here for the Saints, right, Jeff?
Well, I definitely think so. I do like the secondary from Denver, but these guys are a little bit older now, and so I think they're giving up a little bit more in the passing game. The lack of a running game for the Saints really concerns me. I don't know why they won't go out and get a big bruiser to run between the tackles, move the chains on 3rd and 1. They've been relying a lot on Drew Brees, but yet he only finished with around 200 yards last week. So when you're one-dimensional like that in the offense, teams are able to go with their nickel and dime package and neutralize your best weapon. So the thing they have going for them that I really like is Reggie Bush has been really lighting it up on the edge in the passing game, and I think that will continue here against a defense that can't really match his speed.
Sure, Reggie Bush really disappointed fantasy owners last week. He got a touchdown, but it was in that kick return game. Most fantasy leagues out there don't award those points to Reggie Bush owners. They credit that to the Saints defense and special teams. So you want to be able to keep Bush in play here, but
A little shout out to Schober there, I think.
Yeah, exactly.
Poor guy.
Bush owners were frustrated by that for sure.
I'm not as big a fan as on the Saints, #1 on the road, #2 outdoors. They tend to be a little bit slower when they're playing outside on grass. They showed a little bit of that against Washington. I think they need to open up the middle of the field with Jeremy Shockey and use some Pierre Thomas type runs in the middle to help free up all the rest of the offensive game.
That's a real good take too, Yeast, because last week Shockey was a non-factor, and they brought him in to to kind of open that up, some punches to the belly to get the hands to drop, so they can go for that knockout blow. So I want to tell fantasy owners again out there, if Robert Meacham's available on your wire, pick this guy up. He caught a touchdown on his only catch of the game last week. I get a feeling that over the next 3-4 weeks with no Marcus Colston, they're going to continue to increase his workload. So Tampa traveling to Chicago to face a Bears team that's 1-1, and Tampa is reeling from the loss of their starting quarterback as well as their top wide receiver option coming into this game. Joey Galloway will not be playing. So we'll start with you, Yeasty. When Tampa has the ball, are they going to be able to move the ball against a pretty good defense without their top quarterback or wide receiver?
No, if there's a game where you're going to take the under, it's definitely going to be this game. Don't be fooled by Ernest Graham's day. You had him in our tough league, and he salvaged a pretty bad day against Atlanta, who's ordinary on defense with a long touchdown run. So I'm a little bit skeptical about what he can do against the Bears, but he's pretty much their only option.
Right.
So if you're in a PPR league, Ernest Graham's definitely going to be looking good for you because he'll catch some balls out of the backfield. He's probably not going to get into the house, but he'll still put up a combined about 100 yards, I would imagine.
And in Chicago, Jeff, they're a run-heavy offense. Matt Forte is the key to the offense. The Tampa 2 defense can be exploited by a power rusher, right?
Yeah, well, and I think that's definitely what the Bears are going to try to do. This could be the ugliest game of the week, in my opinion.
No, there's one other one that we could get to on the web only.
I'm sure. There's been several ugly ones so far already, and the Bears were suspect in their last game. I'm not a big believer in Matt Forte for the entire season, although he could do well here. They like to do that big punch with the rushing game, and they don't have a heck of a lot going through the passing game.
Nope.
I do think that Kyle Orton will hook up with one of his 2 tight ends in the end zone, probably Greg Olsen because he's their receiving threat, but I don't like much else for them. Defense should be good.
I can't believe I'm going to say this, but Brandon Lloyd actually looked decent last week. And I'm not saying go out and pick him up because I'm not an idiot.
Well,
but
hey, and
if you're in a deep league, Brandon Lloyd didn't look too bad.
And I got a sleeper of the week for you guys out there. I've been talking about this guy for a couple of years now, much to the chagrin of Jesse, but I think Antonio Bryant should do well in the Tampa's offense without Joey Galloway there. So if you're really thin at wide receiver, this is a guy who's got a lot of big game ability. and he's on a team that needs some playmaking. So
Side
keep
bet?
an eye on what's going on him there.
Lloyd versus Antonio
There it
Bryant.
is.
Oh my goodness
Side bet.
gracious.
There's a
Right there.
side bet right there.
That's
Let's
gotta
do
be a
it.
side
Let's do
bet.
it.
Okay, that's fine with
Oh,
me. We
that's
can
a
do the
horrible
side bet,
side bet.
but it's got to be something that the instead of the winner getting something, the loser has to do some grizzle.
The loser has to eat something nasty on next week's show.
Ah.
I get to pick what it is. Like
All right.
Within
liver
reason.
and onions.
Within reason.
Fair enough. I'll do it. Let's do it.
You'll cook
All right.
it.
You probably like liver and onions.
No, actually, I don't. But
Arizona traveling to Washington. Arizona, one of the biggest surprise teams of the early season. Kurt Warner, an absolute resurgence. Last week was the NFC's Player of the Week, throwing 3 touchdown passes to Anquan Bolden. The old man has it back, Yeasty. Arizona is on fire right now.
yeah, they've looked really good. They've played. I would look for them to play a little bit more like they did against San Francisco on the road, where they only put up a couple of touchdowns and the offense struggled against a pretty good defense. I view San Francisco and Washington to be about the same on defense, so don't expect the huge numbers that they put up against Miami to continue this week. But Kurt Warner is obviously the best choice at quarterback for this team, and he's finding Anquan Bolden and Larry Fitzgerald both caught the ball 6 times. Anquan just had a horrible matchup for the Dolphins, anyways, as far as the corner he was up against, and so he lit him up. But they're going to be good, and you need to have them in your lineup every week.
Can you rely on Edgerrin James here? I mean, he seems to be getting usurped by Tim Hightower at the goal line.
Who is that?
Tim
Hightower. If I remember, I'll do that on the website. But anyways, Edgerrin, probably not. I mean, he's definitely anything inside the 20s. Hightower is in there, and he's struggling about 3.5 yards a carry, I believe, right now. So I wouldn't bank on him against a pretty solid defensive line for Washington.
Now, Jeff, you picked Washington to win last week after a real disappointing Week 1 performance where Clinton Portis was completely shut out. Portis got back into the act last week, scored 2 times. Which Portis are we going to see here? The one who's explosive and makes plays?
Well,
or
I
the
do
other
think
one?
that we're going to get a heavy dose of Clinton Portis here in this game. To me, the Cardinal defense is still suspect to a grinder type of guy who can still pop the long one. Portis has some special abilities, and he's a great person, a great leader for the Redskins, and they need him to get into a rhythm if they're going to play Redskin football. So they need him, and at home, I like him a lot more than on the road. So I really definitely think that he's going to get things going big time in this game.
Final matchup of the segment, the Houston Texans had last week off because Ike was visiting their town. Now they travel to Tennessee, and they face a different task here against the number 2 team in total defense. The Tennessee Titans play a hell of a good defense, and they're only allowing 8.5 points per team. Jeff, are there any Houston Texans you can play in this game?
It's going to be interesting for me to see. They did have that extra week off, but hey, during their bye week, they didn't get a chance to know that it was going to be their bye week, so they didn't prepare for their next opponent. They
Or get to go home to their houses?
They were fully prepared, right. They were fully prepared to play
they had a boat, they
the
could.
Ravens. So this is a tough thing to see. They look a lot like the Saints from a couple years back when they were dealing with the Katrina Grizzle. They've been displaced now, possibly playing at Rice Stadium for the remainder of their season. So I'm watching to see what happens here. You still can't deny the game-breaking ability of one Andre Johnson.
Right.
And I think that he's got a great chemistry with Matt Schaub. And I do also like their number 2 target in Kevin Walter. So especially without a pass or much of a rushing game, they're going to go to the air a lot. So because of attempts, I think these guys will be good.
Yeah, Steve Slayton's going to get the start there at running back. He's a tough play, though, against Tennessee's D. Now, Tennessee, we've got to give you a chance to toot the horn of Chris Johnson. Yeasty, not so much that you love to toot the Johnson, but you got to love this guy. You got him in the tough league.
Yeah, I've got him in every league that I'm in this year, and it was a bit of a gamble. We weren't sure exactly how they were going to utilize him, but he's panned out so far. Hopefully he doesn't get dinged up due to a little bit of overuse, but he's definitely the number 1 option over Lindale White right now. Only problem is he's got to score outside the 10-yard line. Otherwise, Lindale is in there getting all the goal line love inside the 10, but he's spectacular so far, and they're looking really smart for taking him.
I'm going to go out on a limb here, and I'm going to say Algie Crumpler has his first decent game of the season. The first 2 weeks, he's basically non-factor for fantasy owners. Jeff Fisher came out throughout the week and said it was because the wind. Yeah. That's pretty lame. I think they just need to get the big old booty involved, get him in the end zone, get him doing his thing. And I look for Crumpler to get involved here in this matchup. So I'm going to roll him out one more time before I shelf him.
He should have just said it was the wind for their entire passing game for the past, 5 years. I mean, McNair couldn't throw the ball there. You know, when is that team ever going to get a playmaking wide receiver? The most talented guy they've had is Tyrone Calico?
Justin Gage caught a touchdown.
Well, they had Derek Mason for a while. So, I mean, he was solid. So.
Well, we hope you're enjoying the show. We hope you're
the best I
enjoying the
could do.
show so far. The chatter talk over here just needs to. But we'll be back right after this message. Testosterone Sports in the house. If you haven't already, check out the website testosteronesports.com, and we'll see you in just a minute. What's up, fantasy football junkies? It's Jesse. You checking us out behind the scenes on the set of Testosterone Fantasy Sports, the #1 fantasy football show for prognostication in the Twin Cities area on cable access. You want to make sure you check out our website as well while you're here looking at the show. Go online, testosteronesports.com. There's so much stuff on there for you content-wise. You want to see the rankings, you want to see the writers' pages, but above all, you want to see this video content that we put out there updated on a weekly basis. So if you missed the show, check it out online at testosteronesports.com.
Hey everybody, we'd really like to thank all of our supporters. We here at Testosterone Sports put a lot of effort into the production that we do on a weekly basis. Go on there, specifically come onto the Fat Chat. You get a chance to interact with all of us, with other people around the Twin Cities. We just love fantasy football, and it's something that we do on a regular basis, so check it out. Join with us to win in your league. It's something we love, and we just appreciate everything that you guys do to join in to be the 4th member of Testosterone.
Can't get enough of the yeast or all these guys. You have rants and raves you want to read. Check out our writers' pages on the website, testosteronesports.com. I go off on a weekly basis. Jeff brags about how good his team is in our league. Jesse has some crazy stuff on there. There's a guy named Will who drops some things I can't talk about on television. Check out our writers' pages, testosteronesports.com, for a little more of the yeast.